Parker Schnabel became a household name as the youngest mining prodigy ever to turn frozen mud into millions. Viewers watched him grow from a determined teenager into the face of gold rush, a symbol of grit, discipline, and relentless ambition. He wasn't just mining gold, he was building a legacy. By his early 20s, Parker had already pulled more than 13 million out of the ground, proving that hard work, strategy, and fearless risk-taking could turn even the harshest land into opportunity. Season after season, he pushed himself and his crew harder than anyone else in the Klondike, earning respect not only for his results but for the way he lived, modestly, focused, and driven by something deeper than money. Unlike many young stars, Parker never chased luxury. He didn't buy mansions, flashy cars, or designer watches. At the height of his fame, he admitted to crashing on friends' couches in Los Angeles and living out of a backpack between mining seasons. His priorities were simple: the ground, the crew, and the work. That mindset came straight from his roots. Parker grew up in a family where quitting wasn't an option. His grandfather mined in Alaska when conditions were brutal and unforgiving, and his father still wakes before sunrise to work. Those values shaped Parker into someone who didn't measure success by comfort, but by how much pressure he could withstand without breaking. By season 14 of Gold Rush, Parker had become the most successful miner in the franchise. That year alone, his team pulled in an astonishing $24 million worth of gold. His wash plants ran like clockwork, his logistics were sharp, and his leadership style, tough but fair, kept his crew loyal. People didn't just see a boss, they saw a leader who worked as hard as everyone else. But with every season of success came more expectations. Viewers, investors, and even Parker himself began to ask the same question: what's next? The answer for Parker was simple: bigger ground, bigger goals, bigger risk. As season 15 approached, he set his sights on a number that would redefine his career: 10,000 ounces in a single season. At current gold prices, that would mean over $25 million in 1 year. It was an audacious target, even for someone as driven as Parker. To reach it, he knew he couldn't rely on safe, familiar ground anymore. He needed volume, massive, relentless volume, and that meant expanding faster than ever before. That's when Parker made the move that would change everything. He spent $2.5 million to buy two major claims, Gold Run and Sulphur Creek, some of the richest historic ground in the Klondike. Over the past century, those areas had produced more than $1.5 billion in gold. On paper, it looked like a dream. But beneath the surface, the land was risky, stripped, unstable, and full of unknown liabilities. Most miners would hesitate. Parker didn't. He saw opportunity where others saw danger. To make the new claims work, Parker had to relocate his biggest wash plant, Bob, over a 25-mile stretch of brutal terrain, the longest move his crew had ever attempted. He gave them just 10 hours to do it. Not days. Not weeks. 10 hours. The logistics were insane. Parts broke. Mechanics scrambled. The crew worked against the clock. But somehow, they pulled it off. Bob was running again, and for a brief moment, everything looked perfect. In just 4 days, Bob pulled in nearly 300 ounces, worth more than $750,000. Add in the gold coming from Roxanne at another cut, and Parker's operation crossed the 6,000-ounce mark. $16 million in the books. The gamble seemed brilliant. Fans thought they were watching another legendary Parker Schnabel comeback season. But what the cameras didn't show was what was happening behind the scenes. The deeper Parker dug, the more problems began to surface. His old, reliable wash plant Big Red finally shut down after more than a decade of service and over $53 million in gold recovered. Tension bars snapped. Operations stopped. Suddenly, Parker was down to just 2 plants. His margin for error vanished. At the same time, legal pressure started building quietly. In his rush to expand and mine every ounce before winter, Parker had made fast deals. Too fast. He bought adjacent claims through private contracts that skipped full environmental assessments. As soon as his crew broke ground at Sulphur Creek, inspectors started asking questions. about permits, about protected waterways, about fuel drums buried under old tailings. At first, it seemed like routine bureaucracy. But then the visits became more frequent. The tone changed. Soon, those questions turned into subpoenas. Federal charges were filed, accusing Parker of serious environmental violations. Not minor infractions, major ones. Illegal dredging, disturbing protected streams, improper waste handling. Prosecutors claimed Parker had knowingly pushed his operation beyond legal limits to hit his 10,000-ounce goal. As the investigation deepened, things got worse. Documents were missing. Permits had been overridden. Inspection reports were allegedly falsified. Emails surfaced showing Parker pushing his team to ignore agency interference and prioritize production at all costs. A former crew member stepped forward, saying Parker had been warned repeatedly about violations but chose to keep mining anyway. Suddenly, the story wasn't about gold anymore. It was about evidence. About intent. About whether the most disciplined young star in mining history had crossed a line he could never uncross. And that's where Parker Schnabel's story took a turn no one expected, from legendary miner to a man fighting for his future behind closed doors. As the investigation tightened around Parker Schnabel, the atmosphere on site changed completely. What had once been a high-energy, goal-driven operation turned into something tense and uncertain. Crews still showed up before dawn, machines still roared to life, and dirt still moved by the ton, but the confidence that once defined Parker's empire began to crack. Everyone felt it. Every delay burned cash. Every breakdown felt heavier. And every ounce that didn't make it into the gold room felt like another step closer to collapse. For Parker, the pressure was suffocating. He wasn't just chasing gold anymore, he was chasing time. His permits and water licenses were set to expire within a few years. If regulators refused to renew them, anything left in the ground would be lost forever. That reality pushed him to go all in. Dominion Creek wasn't just another lease. He had bought it outright. $15 million up front. No refunds. No safety net. It was the biggest bet of his life. The gold at Dominion wasn't easy. It sat more than 40 feet underground, frozen in layers of ancient gravel and permafrost. To reach it, Parker had to move millions upon millions of yards of dirt. Over 6 years, that meant nearly 30 million yards, an almost unimaginable workload. Every season required perfection, no major breakdowns, no serious injuries, no legal interruptions. But perfection is fragile, and Parker was learning that the hard way. As he scaled up, Parker also took on even more commitments. He signed royalty deals for additional ground, including a stretch of Australia Creek, which came with minimum annual payments and production targets. He expanded his drilling programs, explored new international sites, and kept filming spin-offs like Parker's Trail. On the outside, it looked like unstoppable growth. On the inside, it was controlled chaos. The larger the operation became, the less room there was for error. A single broken conveyor belt could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. A delayed inspection could shut down a cut for weeks. A missed permit could derail an entire season. Parker's leadership style, once admired for its intensity, now felt ruthless to some. He expected everyone to match his pace, and not everyone could. Crew turnover increased. Tensions rose. And the isolation of leadership set in. Parker had always been known for standing on his own. He didn't lean heavily on veterans like Tony Beats anymore. He rarely crossed paths with Rick Ness. He had built his own world, his own system, his own empire. But when the legal storm hit, there was no one to shield him. No powerful ally to make the problem go away. He was on his own. Behind closed doors, his legal team worked nonstop. They argued that mistakes had been made by subcontractors. That paperwork delays were not criminal intent. That environmental damage had been exaggerated. But prosecutors painted a different picture. They described a pattern of behavior, ignoring warnings, pushing past regulations, and prioritizing production over protection. To them, Parker wasn't careless. He was deliberate. The courtroom became the new battleground. Instead of ounces and yardage, the numbers were violations and damages. 68 documented breaches. Over $3 million in unauthorized site alterations. Thousands of gallons of unaccounted hydraulic fluid. Contaminated soil near equipment areas. Each figure chipped away at the image fans had of the Golden Boy miner. Then came the testimony. A former crew member claimed Parker knew exactly what he was doing. That he had been warned. That he chose to keep going. The email threads were read aloud. The pressure Parker had put on his team to get it done no matter what. The judge listened. The jury listened. And the silence in the room grew heavier with every word. Outside the courtroom, the public didn't see much. There were no dramatic press conferences. No viral arrest videos. Parker simply disappeared from the spotlight. One day he was everywhere on Discovery Channel. The next, he was nowhere. Fans speculated. Some believed he was negotiating massive restitution. Others thought he was in protective custody. No one really knew. But the silence was louder than any headline. For someone who had built his entire identity around work, the stillness was brutal. Parker had always measured his days by how much dirt he moved, how many ounces he pulled, how hard he pushed himself and others. Now, all of that was frozen. His $16 million from the season was locked in legal review. His claims were under investigation. His crews were scattered. Some stayed loyal. Others quietly moved on. The most painful part wasn't the money. It was the legacy. Parker never mined for fame. He mined to honor his family. He once said that working with his grandfather, eating dinner together every night after long days in the field, mattered more to him than any gold bar. That sense of continuity, of carrying something forward, was everything. And now, that continuity was broken. Season 15 was supposed to be the year Parker proved he could outdo everyone again. The year he crushed the 10,000-ounce mark. The year he cemented his place not just as a star, but as a legend. Instead, it became the season fans call cursed. Equipment failures. Legal nightmares. Endless pressure. Every plan seemed to collapse under its own weight. Yet even in the middle of the storm, there were flashes of the old Parker. The quiet moments when he talked about loyalty. About not wanting to lose his crew. About fearing downsizing more than debt. About choosing risk because the alternative, playing small, felt like betrayal to the people who believed in him. Off camera, Parker was still the same nomadic soul. He didn't retreat into luxury. He didn't hide behind money. He stayed simple. Traveling. Kiteboarding. Snowboarding. Sleeping wherever there was space. For him, movement had always been survival. But now, movement couldn't fix what had happened. By 2024, estimates of Parker's net worth ranged from $8 to $10 million, far less than people expected for someone who had been the face of Discovery's biggest franchise for over a decade. But again, money was never the point. Parker never collected trophies or toys. He collected stories, scars, and seasons. Dominion Creek still sits there, full of gold. Tens of thousands of ounces buried in frozen earth. On paper, it's worth over $160 million. But without renewed permits and legal clearance, it might as well be locked behind concrete. The future Parker once saw so clearly is now blurred by uncertainty. So where does that leave him? Is Parker Schnabel a fallen star, a cautionary tale about ambition going too far? Or is he still the same relentless miner who will fight his way back from the edge and rebuild everything he lost? That question hangs in the air, unanswered. Some believe he'll return stronger than ever. That the same discipline that built his empire will eventually restore it. Others think the weight of legal, financial, and emotional pressure is too much to overcome. One thing is certain, Parker Schnabel's story is no longer just about gold. It's about choices, consequences, and what happens when the drive to win collides with the limits of the world around you. And now the world is watching to see what he does next. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Parker Schnabel's unbelievable rise and shocking downfall, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next story. We bring you the real truth behind fame, fortune, and the secrets they don't want you to know. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Parker will make a comeback, or is this the end of his golden era? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.